Hello YouTube, welcome to DIY Life. I'll be honest with you, today I'm going to ad-lib it because it's about 30 degrees in my garage and I've been slacking, and I promised I'd get these videos out on every Sunday. So last time I left you on part 1 of Cerakoting my Tanfoglio TA90, which is a CZ75 clone. I just finished doing the gas out process and trying to get the oil out of all of the frame's parts. So hopefully today we'll walk through what happened with that process, and if it needs any cleaning we'll do that, and applying Cerakote to the actual frame. So all that on DIY Life today. Alright, left off we had the parts in the oven. I went ahead and pulled them out to just to get them up to any kind of room temperature, or at least, something above 30 degrees. And when I did, I noticed immediately that down in the actual barrel part of the slide, barrel receiver part of the slide, that there is a bunch of gunk that leaked out. It's kind of hard to pick up on camera, but if I shove down a dowel rod down here, I can kind of pick it up here. And it just looks like it was some burnt oil, something to that effect. So what I'm going to have to do is dunk this in an isotone bath again, just to make sure we can clean this all out and maybe give it a scrub. And let's see here, checking the barrel, something kind of interesting that I noticed is that when I blasted the two, you'll see a distinct difference in the finish of the two. Clearly the barrel itself is a lot more shiny. So we'll see exactly how Cerakote actually holds on to the metal and doesn't flake off in any way. So that came out just fine. Oops. And of course always use gloves so you're not getting your own oils on. And checking all the other parts, they look nice and clean. And those are pretty much ready to be coated. So I'm only going to worry about taking the slide, putting in the isotone bath, and seeing if we can get that nice and clean. The next part in Cerakoting is just preparing the actual Cerakote itself. So what you're going to have to do is, first part is your actual Cerakote color, which is part A is graphite black. That's just the color I'm going with today. And you need part B, which is your hardener. So at different ratios you're going to get different finishes. So Cerakote does a very nice job of just explaining really quickly that 24:1 is your matte finish, all the way up to 12:1 is your semi-gloss. And you can play with the ratios and figure out exactly what you like. I prefer to go with matte finish because, I don't know, glossy firearms just don't do it for me. And what they do is they actually provide you with a cylinder to actually mix all your Cerakote together. But I don't think shaking it is really the way to go. Stirring it's better for me, so pretty much I don't like using this kind of cylinder. So I went down to Walmart, picked up $2 baking cups that will let me do the same type of measurements without any problem. And I happen to come across a whole bunch of glass rods here that are just great for stirring anything that you want to continually have something to stir with. So they're very easy to clean, and I will put a link down in the doobly-doo to my Etsy store, to be honest, and those are up for sale on there. Really cheap, $5 for 10, but otherwise they're great for mixing and other arts and crafts things. Alright, so moving on. Let's do some mixing of this graphite black. I've already kept it inside just to warm it back up. From what I hear, Cerakote's better to be stored outside in the cold, and you have to go shake it every once in a while. It's got about a shelf life of a year. And when you have it mixed together, it's only got a shelf life of about an hour with the hardener. So since I'm only going to coat the inside of the slide and all those miscellaneous parts, I'm not going to need very much Cerakote. So the best thing to do is actually get a filter to start out with. And we're back. Alright, I went ahead and I grabbed my scale and a filter because we're not using very much Cerakote today, so it's going to be much easier just to weigh it out. And so what we'll do now got a simple electric scale. I got it off of eBay. And I'm just going to leave it on grams. There we go. Turns out that this glass weighs 123.5 grams, so we'll tear that out. Alright, now we're sitting at 0. So I'm just going to add somewhere between either 24 or 48 grams of Cerakote, and that'll make it easy. Just either add 1 gram or 2 gram of hardener. So that is already 11 grams. So actually I'm just going to go to 12 because that's going to be surprising. Well, actually no, let's go to 24. Alright, I overshot a little bit. These containers are horrible to try to pour out of, by the way. And it's always a good idea to give it a little bit of shake recently. So you're going to make sure it's all mixed up. And let's see here, I ended up with 28.8 grams. So I'm just going to add 1.1 gram of hardener because it's not really going to matter too terribly much. We'll just make it even. We'll bring it up to 30 grams. Easy enough. And give it a stir. And today I'm actually going to use the gun that they actually give you from what I would assume is Harbor Freight, honestly. This is like a $9 gun. But it's going to do exactly what we need it to do. But first, I'm going to go ahead and pull out my parts to make sure they're not 250 degrees when I paint them. Alright, got the barrel hung up and ready to go. Got my respirator on standby, because of course, you should never spray without a respirator. And I believe this is once again a standard Harbor Freight respirator. So, always research what your tools are. They're not always that bad, because stuff like Ryobi is nothing more than Harbor Freight with a different name. So, do your research on tools. So we got our air set to about 90 psi, and I've got my gun turned way down, and I'll spray a test pattern and show you guys that beforehand. Tops on, we're ready to go. As you can see, the pressure is way too low, so I'm going to turn it up. That's not too bad. I like that spray pattern. So treat this like spray paint. You want this to be fairly wet looking when you're ready to go and cook it. Turn it up a bit higher. Oh no, I forgot the plugs. You always use plugs to prevent buildup. Alright, there we go. I keep hitting this knob. This knob is the pressure, and I constantly hit it with my pinky. Looks pretty good. I think I got all the angles. So into the oven. So I have to set the temperature to 250 degrees and then set the time. We'll do 2.5 hours. And we'll be back in 2.5 hours and it should be ready to go, and we'll check the finish. Alright, figured out that after all that painting and test spraying, I'd show you guys how much paint I actually used. So we started out with 30 grams and I went ahead and zeroed it out because you can see there's still paint left in there. So there's at least a gram or so of paint just left over in the jar. I'll take this, we'll dump it out my gun into the beaker. Looks like we still have half. We still have 15 grams of paint that was left in the gun.